Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, December 29th, and this is episode number 130. I am your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my brother, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how are things going?
Well, they're going, Rod. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Made it through Christmas all right, and pretty nice time. How about you?
Yeah, the week between the holidays is kind of slow, but, that's okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. Joining us today is our guest and my friend, Joe Iuppa. Joe, how are you this evening?
Rod and Jeff, I am doing great. I thoroughly appreciate the invite and very excited to be here, gentlemen.
Yeah, really been looking forward to talking to you. We've talked a lot, but never verbally. So yeah, it's good to talk to you, Joe.
For sure.
And, I'm going to give out your Twitter handle now. Anybody wants to give you a follow, it's at Joey Doves 77. You want to give an explanation on that Twitter handle, Joe? Or
I'd love to. That's actually a pretty good story. As my last name is Iuppa, Iuppa. There is a very interesting gentleman that was in Chicago, and his name was Joseph Iuppa, but it was spelled Aiuppa. And he actually was Al Capone's one of his head henchmen for quite a few years, and he ran the Chicago mob scene. And different stories exist that we may or may not be relatives. I always say yes in case to have that little story. And his nickname was Joey Doves Iuppa. So that's where that comes into play.
Cool. That's cool. We'll be nice to you.
So was it?
Yeah, that's why I always say that is just always be nice.
Yeah. Was he the Birdman of Chicago? I mean, where did the Doves come from?
Well, part of it was the birds, but if you know the movie Casino, he was actually the gentleman that put the hit out on Joe Pesci's character and his brother. They don't use his name, but he was in jail for quite a few years for that hit that was called out.
Wow.
So that's him.
So you're going to make us an offer we can't refuse?
Well, potentially, but we'll just wish for a Browns victory and not go in a bad direction.
Yeah, that's pretty good, Jeff. Better than I could have done. So guys, we're going to, before we get into the football and a few other things, we're gonna talk about what we're drinking tonight with our Blitz beverages. And Joe, you are the guest. We're gonna let you kick it off. So why don't you tell us about what you have in front of you there?
Sure. In honor of my wife Maria, I am drinking Market Garden Festivus, which is her favorite and also one of my favorite Christmas ales. I love it. It's got a little bit of that emblem of the Guardian, which we can, equate to the Indians. And I just love the fact that it's, it's not too overly floral or pine scented, or, how some of them can be, very, very profusive. And I just, it's very easy drinking, and it has everything you want in a holiday brew.
Nice. So Jeff, what do you have there?
Well, as you know, Rod, I don't do a lot of beer this time of year, but I did have a little bit of Chardonnay earlier with dinner. And when I was on vacation, I sort of started this new nightly thing of I get a bottle of, or I got to get a glass of Bailey's on the rocks, sort of as my evening aperitif. So that's kind of carried over now since I've been home, and fortunately for Christmas, everybody kind of picked up on that and bought me a bunch of Baileys. So I'm going to be doing this for the foreseeable future.
Gotcha. So you have the Baileys now?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, Jeff, you'll be happy to know we went to the Brewdog Hotel a few weeks back, and I brought home a variety of beers from there. I just bought 4 different individual cans, and one of them is the Brewdog Happy Christmas, and this is a say I'm trying to find their description of it. Essentially, just a Christmas IPA. Yeah, it says batteries not included on the side, but I think that's just a play on Christmas. But so it's it says a festive India Pale Ale, 6%. Tastes like an IPA, which Jeff, I think you finally converted me, and you kind of got me started on these. I'm to the point where I enjoy these. So, nice. It started with the New England IPAs, and I've tried enough New England IPAs that tasted just like an IPA that I've really started to enjoy them.
That's great.
So, yeah. So a little more, I feel like I'm a little bit more well-rounded of a beer drinker.
You're
at this point.
Full spectrum beer drinker now.
Yeah. I finally made it after how many years? We won't say. It's been a while. Anyways.
I've actually had that beer recently, and it was pretty delicious.
Yeah, I think it's got a good flavor to it. Yeah, it's not. I think I'm getting more used to IPAs, but to me, it's not real. It's not. It's not extremely hoppy. It's just got a nice taste to it. So Joe, we are at the point in the show where we would like to hear about your story as a Browns fan. Now, I know you said you've been. I don't know if you're from New York originally, but I know you were in Rochester and that you're in Avon now. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your history as a Browns fan and any highlights or anything else you'd like to add in?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I've been a Browns fan since birth, and for people that aren't super familiar, Rochester, New York's about 4 hours away, give or take, from Cleveland. And prior to the Bills being in town, the closest team to Rochester was the Cleveland Browns, other than, it was the New York Giants and it was the Cleveland Browns. And when my dad grew up, he grew up in the, definitely the heart of being a Browns fan. It was Otto Graham, Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly, Gene Hickerson, any of the who's who was when he started being a Browns fan. So obviously it wasn't hard for him to stick with it, but he just kind of gravitated towards them, loved him. He actually got a couple of college degrees in Cleveland, so that kind of solidified it more than anything. Stuck through it, even though John Elway ruined my childhood a couple times in a row. Any of these situations now are, and 1-31, 500 is really not the end of the world, even though obviously they tease us just enough to be within 2 points or whatever. I always say, if you're a Browns fan, you're a loyal individual, and you've got some character. So I will be my whole life, and certainly won't sway me. And actually, what brought me to Cleveland ultimately was 6 years ago. I married my wife Maria, and we actually just happenstance were at the same Browns game tailgating, and we met there, and here we are. So even in those 1-31 days, I was actually a season ticket holder with my cousin, and so we would come, start off at 3 or 4 in the morning, driving here to tailgate. Pure dedication to see a very subpar product for most of those years, but there was a reason why we did it. And obviously, Rod and I kind of crossed paths. We were talking about myself writing for some different articles, some pieces, and things like that. But at that point, and it was almost exactly 3 years ago, my daughter just turned 3 a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to do it. I really have confidence in my with the pieces that I write, but we were just giving birth to our first daughter and our only daughter, and I just didn't feel like I put my all into it. So that's kind of how Rod and myself kind of crossed paths.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my short and sweet story of the Browns.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think, I mean, your story kind of goes back to the days of, the glory days. When you talk about your dad and kind of, people that followed the Browns, kind of picking between the Browns and the Giants. And I think, there's probably quite a few people in that same group, in different areas. But the fact that you've carried it on another generation and everything, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So,
and my daughter is, she definitely, when I get excited and, which, obviously has been quite a bit more in the last couple of years. She likes it when daddy's happy. So, you kind of learn as you go that, the Browns aren't life, even though obviously it's better when they win. But, years ago and when you're younger, it's, your weekend is ruined, or it could be. And, certainly John Elway did that a couple of years in a row. But, there's bigger things in life, but it's there's certainly something sweet about it when there's some success for a team that you're living and breathing with.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, excellent. So let's talk about the Browns then. We'll go back and talk about the Packers game first. Christmas Day, and I guess it depends on your perspective on this game. A lot of people were probably mad because the way it ended with the pick. Baker's fourth interception, and should there have been a penalty called, and should the Browns have had a chance to kick the field goal there, and everything like that. So a lot of people probably have a very bitter taste in their mouth from that game. But the Browns played, outside of the interceptions, the Browns played a very good game against really the best team record wise in the NFC. The defense played just excellent. They held the Packers to 3 points in the second half. It's the first time in 5 weeks that the Packers had scored less than 30 points. And some of those points the Browns gave up were probably all of them were off the turnovers. But the Packers have some players, so they're going to score some points. So kind of depends on your perspective. So I guess we'll just start off by letting you guys give your thoughts, just some random thoughts that you might have from the game. So Jeff, you've been quiet. We'll let you have your shot first here.
Yeah, again, we didn't think the Browns had any chance in this game pretty much from the get-go this year, looking at the schedule. Tough schedule going into Lambeau on Christmas Day, and COVID shortened roster and all the other what ifs. I think the Browns overall played pretty well. As you said, the defense played really well. We just continue to struggle as an offense. And we put up more points than we had been, which at least gave us a chance. But yeah, it really just boiled down to the turnovers. You can't give the ball to a team as strong as the Packers in a short field and expect to keep pace. And they did a pretty good job of that, but it just wasn't enough. And again, I'm not really that upset with this game going into the loss category because I pretty much expected that all year. I am kind of disappointed with the way we lost the game. That all these guys went out there and really kind of laid it on the line and gave us a good chance, and we just sort of gave it away.
Yeah. So Joe, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I'd agree, and a lot of the takes that you guys have. The thing that was the most head-scratching thing for me was the last 4 downs that they played. First of all, Nick Chubb wasn't on the field, which, 184 combined yards. I mean, that guy is just the heart and soul of the team, in my opinion. I mean, he is as much of a class act as you can want, wants to be out there, doesn't react to things. And when you see him on the bench with his coat on and, no offense to Dearness Johnson, he is a unsung hero in that Denver game and whatnot. But the thing beyond that is you're gonna throw it 4 times, and it's Stefanski. I love, and I would, people that are over, the reactionary Twitter or whatever crowd, Baker's the worst thing ever. Stefanski's the worst thing ever. I mean, neither of those are true. I mean, they're the best that we've had in quite a long time. But it seems to me like late in games, Stefanski calls a different game than he does for the first 58 minutes of the game. And there's a reason why, in some senses, some of the play calls, some of the execution, it doesn't seem like what's been working the whole game, they somehow abandon way too often. And, they got back into the game because of the running game, and they just as quickly abandon it.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, I know the fact is there were the 3 timeouts left. They're trying to get down there. It was a tough spot. The fact is, I don't know if any of us had faith that in letting the backup kicker come out and try anything over 20 25 or 30 yards or whatever the shortest field goal we could possibly take is.
For sure.
I was hoping that they would really try to use that time to get all the way down there and try to score a touchdown.
Right.
So, whatever that would take. But yeah, I mean, they left all 3 timeouts on the board. So, it's really hard because we do see, week to week, there's times when the Browns come out and run it 3 plays in a row and they get nothing. And there's times when they come out and pass it 3 times in a row and they get nothing. And the fans always want the opposite. I think it's, it's kind of tough to be the coach calling the plays because you're going to be second guessed. So
for sure.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Right.
The only thing that bothered me is, why is Nick Chubb not on the field? And why was there a time earlier in the season, I can't recall the game to be completely frank, when Nick Chubb was on the sideline and so was Kareem Hunt. And I've never seen Kareem Hunt so animated, yelling and, gesticulation, whatever you want to say the words are. He's visibly upset. And Nick Chubb actually, shrugged his shoulders and it was basically like, I know, I don't have an answer for you. And it's not, and Dearness Johnson obviously is phenomenal, but it seems like there's too many counterintuitive moves that have made. And I just wish that they would do what they do best and stop trying to be the smartest person in the room sometimes. And I don't necessarily always think that Kevin is that way, but I just wish that they would just, when
you're talking into the game.
Yeah. And I mean, what was that? There was a game where they had the Wildcat with 2 fullbacks on the field. What was that? Okay, that's wonderful. Johnny Stanton and I forget the number 31
Janovich.
Janovich. Yeah,
Janovich,
yeah. I couldn't think. I apologize for forgetting his name, but it sometimes is like, okay, that's wonderful, but what are we doing? And I understand. I mean, he's in comparison to the previous coaches we've had. I mean, there's no doubt that he is phenomenal, but I just think he sometimes is trying to, make a miraculous play or do something unexpected, and that's good. But sometimes, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah, and I honestly thought, and I can see the debate for those last 3, 4, 5 plays. And I thought the rest of the game, I thought he called a good game. I thought they moved the ball well and everything. They would have put up a lot of points if it weren't for the turnovers.
Oh yeah.
So I thought it was an excellent game for play calling.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the fact that they were still in the game was kind of a miracle, to be honest. Thankfully to the defense.
Yeah, only because of the defense. I don't know how you turn the ball over 4 times to the Packers and have a chance at the end to drive down and win a game. That just it just doesn't even seem to make sense. So
no.
Well,
So
let
Jeff,
me just add
go ahead.
this real quick. Browns have made a franchise out of trying to be the smartest people in the room, particularly, over the past 20 years, excluding the last couple in the draft and, and selecting players and stuff. So, I think it's totally fair for us to sort of have that perception of this organization. And to wonder at times, whether they are making good decisions and to second guess things when they don't go right. So, again, I don't blame anybody for having those sorts of ideas about a game looking back on it. With that said, the last 3 plays of the game were the last 3 offensive plays of the game for us. Were the last 3 offensive plays of the game for us because of the interception.
Oh, for sure.
We don't know what the next 5 to 10 plays would have looked like. And
that's fair.
What I've heard from Stefanski this week is they wanted to score a touchdown on that drive. They did not feel confident in using their kicker, as you mentioned, Rod. He'd already missed an extra point.
Exactly the right way to look at it. Yeah.
So they wanted to go down and score a touchdown to win this game. Nick Chubb had been in on the previous several plays and run, and he had actually taken himself out because he was winded. Now, maybe there was an opportunity to get him back in. Maybe they didn't plan to get him back in until after the next first down. I don't know what that sequence would have looked like. But the reality is that we were still a long way from field goal range when that interception took place. And we needed a lot more offense at that point. So I think it's a little gratuitous to say that, we messed up by not running Nick Chubb on any of those 3 plays. I think running Nick Chubb on any of those 3 plays may or may not have gotten us that first down, but there was still an awful lot that needed to happen after that for us to win the ball game. So I like our coaching staff. I think they make good calls more than they make bad calls, and that's really all you can ask for from a coaching staff. We're not losing games because we're not making the right call at the right time. I think we're losing games because we're not executing at the right time. That's what I've been saying all season.
I would agree with that.
Honestly, we've not had a functional offense since the Cincinnati game. Was that week 9? And until we can get that right, we could have Vince Lombardi calling plays for us, and I don't think we would have a chance of beating the Packers. We came pretty damn close this week, but
we did.
It just wasn't. It just wasn't going to happen.
I mean, the offense moved the ball. It's like I said, it was the turnovers. I mean, the Browns were really moving the ball. I mean, Nick Chubb had an excellent day.
For sure.
Trying to remember what else I had marked down here. I mean, Nick Chubb, Higgins looked good.
You had a bunch of different guys catching the ball. I thought other than the interceptions, Baker was relatively efficient. He's going to take a beating because of really 2 bad decisions by him and 2 really great plays by the Packers defense. And it really boils down to him not being able to get a ball out quick enough, which again, we've kind of discussed all year. The fact that the offense plays in cement sometimes, it just doesn't happen quickly enough. And it gives defenders a chance to recover. And that's really what I think led to all of those interceptions. Our offense just lacks pace. It lacks consistency. And it lacks playmakers. If you look at some of the balls to DPJ, you could argue that they would have been spectacular catches. But again, we've been saying for several weeks now that those are catches he has to make. Mm-hmm. Watching Chase Claypool yesterday, sacrifice his body to make catches, knowing that Pittsburgh going absolutely nowhere. Okay. But it's not happening for us. And that's what we have to figure out. And as soon as our offense figures all that out, we'll be in ball games again.
Yeah, I agree.
The guy that I think really has been the unsung hero this year is Harrison Bryant. I think he has grown leaps and bounds, not having the drops. The game a couple games ago, I'm trying to think of who was the Steelers game when he went out. I can't recall 100%, but when he went out, I just had a bad feeling that the guy that Baker was having some chemistry with, he went out. And, I certainly am not throwing Stefanski under the bus, but it just, if your best playmaker needs a little bit of a breather, you've got 3 timeouts. I would have rather them, had an opportunity to win the game, and, if you have, obviously you have a backup kicker, I would have rather had an opportunity to kick that than trying to, force some balls in. And, I think the biggest thing that Baker's, his problem this year is his fundamentals and his footwork are really not good. Every single one of those throws that were interceptions, he was on his back foot. You're not going, they're sailing. Obviously shoulder injury. There's so many things that go into it this year, but I don't know, he's beyond the injuries. He has regressed, and I thoroughly want him to succeed. But first and foremost, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm not, I want the Browns to win, and I think there's, right. There's some, Baker, what Baker is. He's going to wear his heart in his sleeve. A couple games ago, he shook off the defender, threw the ball away. I'm sure his shoulder was just decimated. Then they dropped the ball after that. The guy has got a lot of heart, no matter if you like him or don't like him. But I think he's got to look himself in the mirror and say, you know what, I did not perform well this year, injury or side. And when you're in the game, to me, injuries don't. If you're injured to the point where you're hurting the team, don't be on the field. Injuries are not an excuse when you're on the field, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think we may know at some point in the future why this whole thing is unfolding the way it is. I suspect that the Browns really feel like they have no alternative but to play Baker right now.
I agree.
Even though it may not be the best decision from a wins and losses standpoint, that's just where we are. And I think it's unfair to place all the blame on him. Obviously he was the key contributor.
Yep.
But there are a bunch of moving pieces with this offense that just aren't clicking. And until that changes, like I said, it's interesting. You know who didn't have a catch in that game? David Njoku.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have a catch.
Talk about coming up small in big moments.
Yeah.
He
looked like the Njoku from last season.
Yeah. What we're watching right now is, certain guys playing themselves off this team. When it comes to roster evaluation in the off season and who gets extended, who gets let go, guys like Njoku who are not producing when called upon, it gets real hard to imagine them being on this team moving forward. And there's another year make that decision on Baker. That's kind of our position on this podcast is we're not going to beat it up too much because we know we've got another year.
Yep.
Okay. But guys like Njoku who are playing for a contract right now, to not be able to make plays. And Harrison Bryant, you give him credit. He had one catch for 1 yard and a touchdown. And we think that's great for a tight end. This whole offense is supposed to be built around running backs and tight ends. Okay. Yeah. And our tight ends had 4 catches in that game. We've got to do better. We've got to figure out a way to get these guys into the flow of the offense. And it's been weeks since we've seen that happen.
For sure.
It's just, there's just too many issues with the offense right now to look at the Browns as a playoff team. I think from a defensive standpoint, absolutely. We are licking around the edges of a really, competitive championship level defense. But our offense is a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to your point, as far as the 5th-year option with Baker, the guy who has just been brilliant and seamless since he's gotten here and was here before is Andrew Berry. I don't think that there's been much that I would critique on, and if they're such minor points. But I mean, getting JOK in the 2nd round, Greg Newsome's been absolutely wonderful. And his point a couple of weeks ago, he says, what, Baker's got 5 games to prove himself. And, he definitely, he's obviously intelligent. He's part of the Ivy League brain trust, the coach and, all the crew front office. But I mean, I really, really thoroughly enjoy what he's doing. And I mean, whether they bring in another quarterback next year or, just keep Case Keenum, whatever the situation is, Baker's got to first and foremost get himself healthy and ready for the season. And what, this is a make or break year for him. I mean, this year, whether he likes it or not, he's lost a lot of money from, even if he has a great year next year, it's not going to be quite to the magnitude that he was hoping for. And obviously we as fans would love for, him to piggyback on with Josh Allen, maybe not that amount of money, but just be like the success was in front of him. And, this has been a tough year. They've had a lot of hurdles and, you just got to hope his fortitude is there. And I really, really want him to succeed. I mean, there's not many quarterbacks that have said, I'm going to come to Cleveland and I want to be there. There was, Achilles Smith and down the line, I don't want to be there. And, it takes a certain moxie, which we know he has. And, I love for him to succeed, but, I want the Browns to succeed, if he's there or not. And obviously, let's hope he is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you want to throw out the Jim Mora line again, Jeff, about the playoffs, because the Browns, everybody's talking the Browns. The Browns have a shot, and this has been all over social media. But the Browns can win the division still, and it's really not even that far fetched. But the Browns would have to win their last 2 games, so they have to go into Pittsburgh and find a way to win, and then they would have to be able to beat the Bengals at home. If they can do that, then the Ravens lose to either the Rams or Steelers, and the Bengals would lose to KC this week. So and it's not really far fetched, other than the Browns would have to put 2 wins together, which they haven't done a lot this season. So. It's not far-fetched, but the defense is there. It's a matter of if they can, put the points up to win 2 games and hope the other 2 things happen. So
week 4 is the last time we won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I know it doesn't happen a lot. So, and that's kind of what I had written down, guys. Is what's more likely that the Browns win 2 in a row, period, or that these other scenarios all play out, the Bengals losing to KC and the Ravens losing to the Rams or Steelers, and I guess those are the only two things, because if the Browns win their last two games, they take care of everything else within the division.
Right.
In terms of probability, going into this season, I would have said, our chances of beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh would not have been great. But right now, I actually feel pretty good about that game. The Bengals coming here the last week with the division potentially on the line, the way the Bengals offense has been clicking, boy, their defense doesn't have to be all that good to throw a shit ton of points on the board. And I don't know that we have an answer for that.
Well, I have to do a little shout out to Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, because they pretty much single-handedly put me into the finals of the podcast fantasy league this past week.
Joe Burrow has almost 1,000 yards against the Ravens.
Yep.
Just the Ravens in 2 games, almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah. So they put up 80 points for me last week in fantasy, just those two guys, and I wound up winning by 3 points in my match.
Jeez.
So yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Anyway,
what's incredible in the grand scheme, if it comes down to that game, I mean, obviously, Burrow is far outshining Baker, but there's something about Baker and the Bengals. He is a whole nother world as far as his production. I mean,
he plays different.
It seems like, it's just, that Bengals game looked like, what we hoped the team was going to be. And I don't know if it's just a confidence thing or whatever, but and probably me saying that is just going to put it right down the toilet. But, it just seems like
you're absolutely right, though.
He fires on all cylinders. It's just, every game against them that he's had, he has absolutely been on fire, and
he's going to need
whatever
to.
that is. He better, obviously, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll ironically be at the game, so hopefully, if it could all be on the line, I'd be all right with it, and I'll have a good time either way. So,
yeah.
And the Chiefs play right into this. The Chiefs. I started watching the Chiefs Steelers game this past weekend. I guess it was a Sunday game, and man, that was unwatchable. The Chiefs absolutely thumped the Steelers. They didn't have any. It just looked like the Steelers didn't have any business being on the field with them. Wound up 36-10, but I think I don't know. They were shutting them out at halftime, I think. 20 something to 0, I think.
For me, it was very watchable, to be honest.
Yeah.
It looked like Ben didn't even, he shouldn't be out there. He kind of had that same look on the sideline as he did the playoff game with the Browns. He was just demoralized. But obviously that guy can, he can make things happen. I wouldn't discount him.
No, we've been through it before. You can't discount the Steelers, especially in Pittsburgh. So, but the Browns defense is going to have to keep playing like they do, and the offense will have to, figure out a way to score some points. And, and we'll see what the Chiefs can do against the Bengals. That'll definitely be an interesting game. I don't know if that game's in Cincinnati or in KC. Not sure, but either way, that'll be a tough game, because KC and the Bengals both seem to be on a roll right now, so we'll definitely see what happens. So
yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch for sure, and hopefully it goes in the Browns' favor. But they got to take care of their own business, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So I tell you guys what, we'll get back to the Steelers game here. I wanted to touch on a couple things here before we go back and kind of get score predictions and maybe final thoughts on that Steelers game. John Madden passed away. Was it today or last night? I'm not sure.
It was yesterday morning.
Today. Yesterday morning. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, news kind of got out today, and don't worry, Jeff. I won't get all choked up over it or anything. Anyways, John Madden passed away. He was 85, and I still guess it was kind of sudden, so I'm not sure what happened. But just a couple things about John Madden for people that just know him. People listening that know him as the Madden football game guy, and maybe know that he announced games and all this. John Madden was obviously the coach of the Raiders when they won the Super Bowl in 1976. He retired at the age of 42 in 1978 from coaching, and at that time he had a record of 103 wins, 32 losses, and 7 ties. That's a winning percentage of 75.9%, which is the highest winning percentage among coaches with 100 games.
Wow.
I really didn't know that until I started looking at stuff. And from there he went into to broadcasting. He did broadcasting from 1979 to 2008, I believe, with different networks. He started the All Madden team you guys are familiar with. I'm not sure when that ended or if it ever did end, but that started in 1984 when guys wanted to be on the All Madden team, and the Madden football game actually started in 1988. So, I was just kind of thinking just how much football this guy knew and how he kind of, with Madden and with the football and with all this stuff, he became such a caricature, of himself almost. But he was still just such a football legend and obviously one of the greatest coaches, for that brief period of time. This is a little bit of a stretch, guys, but to me, he's kind of like in that Babe Ruth category for Babe Ruth the pitcher, where Babe Ruth was an excellent pitcher. It could have been a Hall of Fame pitcher, and then he switched and went into hitting. So Madden did this coaching and was great at it, but he didn't do it for that long. He only coached for what I think 10 years or so, and then he went and did and was successful at all these other things. It's just just a very interesting guy, and I really think he did a lot for football. Not that football really needed anything, but he really was an ambassador for football. It probably brought a lot of people in through the games and his announcing and just the way he kind of taught people stuff. So yeah. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on him or if you just want to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in.
Go ahead.
Those stats are incredible. I mean, obviously, with Ken Stabler and that whole cast of characters. I mean, they absolutely loved every second of being with him. I knew it was fantastically successful. I didn't know it was to that point. So I mean, great stats on that for sure, Rod. And in general, I mean, it's his mark on football is, so immense. You don't really think about it, but I mean, even talking about like Frank Caliendo and his voice and, just like Brett Favre, and, all the, I mean, it's just, I mean, he's so wide ranging. People that don't know anything about football know who he is from a video game standpoint to begin with. And, I mean, he certainly was, as you say, a caricature of himself, but I mean, he wouldn't be where he was. I mean, you could say, oh, geez, like, well, if Brett Favre throws the ball more or, gets more yards, we're going to win. He'd be king of the obvious statements, but obviously he knew what he was talking about. And, I mean, he was pure entertainment, and I mean, it was, you don't think about everything that he, brought to the game and, enhanced the game. I mean, I don't think that I don't know enough about him, but I don't think that necessarily was something that he wanted on his shoulders, from what I could gather and know. I mean, he was a pretty humble guy. I mean, he would drive his big bus because he didn't want to fly everywhere he was going. And, he was who he was and made no apologies for it.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that kind of everybody felt like they would just be able to walk up and talk to him.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And they literally did.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, he was that accessible, you know. And in the 80s and 90s, John Madden and Pat Summerall, and possibly the guy who did NFL films. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Steve Sable.
Steve Sager. You know,
Sable, yeah.
Sable, yeah. They were NFL football. You know, those were the voices of NFL football. When you think about games, you know, when we were young men and watching the NFL in those decades, those are the voices that come to mind, and just iconic, you know. So, you know, John Madden coached long enough to be a Hall of Fame coach. Mm-hmm. Everything he did after that was because that's what he wanted to do. And we're all better off for it.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah, so I wanted to take just a few minutes, one more sidetrack, and then we're going to get back to Browns football and the Steelers game and that. But Joe and I have something else in common, and that's we're both into sports collectibles, sports cards, and that. So something we've never really talked about on this podcast, I don't believe. It may have come up a few times, but you know, just thought we'd talk about it a little bit. And Joe, I kind of wanted to let you begin and just kind of talk about how you got your start in collecting and kind of what it does for you and kind of a little bit about what you're doing now with it too.
Sure, definitely. It's something, you know, I think my dad brought in, I wouldn't say selfishly, but it was another thing for us to, you know, do besides, you know, going to my CYO basketball games and whatever else. It was just another fun thing for us to do. And, you know, at the point when I got into it, you know, that was, you know, kind of now we call it the junk wax era, you know, the mid early 80s cards. 87 Donruss was one that we collected and just loved every second of it. Those, you know, rated rookie cards just kind of always brings chills as far as, you know, bringing it home, bringing the binder and putting the cards in. But we would constantly go to card shows together, and, you know, being from New York, you know, I do love the Indians, but you know, this may be bad on the podcast, but I grew up a Yankees fan and still do like them. But I mean, when they won the championship in '96, that was all I needed. That was the one championship that meant the most to me. After that, it didn't, you know, it was nice, but, you know, I in 2016, I was rooting so hard for the Indians, and, you know, unfortunately what unraveled, you know, happened. But, you know, we would go to shows and, you know, I met Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, Stan Musial, you name it. All those guys in those eras were big parts of card shows. And, you know, the classiest guy I've ever met in my life was Stan Musial, and Stan the Man. I mean, I still, you know, I've gotten a couple autographs of his lately on cards, and it means the world to me because, you know, I was 9 or 10 when I met him. There was a huge line of people behind him, and he spent about 15, 20 minutes talking to me. You know, people were getting a little unruly behind it. He's like, I'm talking with my buddy Joe right now. I will get to you and we'll have a conversation. It's going to be okay. And as calmly as could be said. I mean, he's such a gentleman. I mean, he says, do you play baseball? What's your name? You know, who's your team? And I mean, it was just, he was the real article, and it meant the world to me. And I still, Stan Musial is still, you know, I mean, obviously I did not see him play, but I mean, and he's obviously one of the greats. It meant so much to me, you know, what a gentleman he was. And I kind of, you know, that brings me to maybe freshman or sophomore year of high school. And, you know, you're starting to drive, your, you know, interest lies in other areas, you know, you're starting to meet girls, you're thinking about college, things like that. I got back into it maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. So I took about, you know, I will soon be 45 in March. I probably took about a 20 year hiatus from it. Always thought about it in my mind. I was maybe look at them once in a while, but for some reason I got back into it. And the new craze right now is breaking, where you're buying into the Browns or the Yankees or whatever, and 5 or 6 boxes are open, and hopefully your team hits, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's kind of the fun of watching it, one of the big YouTube crazes. And am I allowed to state one of the guys that we like, or is that unethical on the podcast? I don't want to overstep.
One of the guys you like, one of the players?
One of the breaking groups.
Oh, you can name a breaking group if you want. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the guys that kind of got me into it, they're out of Columbus, called Buck City Breaks. And the thing that one of the first breaks I ever did with them, there was one of their family, as they call it, was their sons was going through some really tough times, and they did 24 hours of breaking literally on YouTube. It was one of the first things they did, and every single dollar that they raised, and it was an extraordinary amount, went specifically to this family to help fund medical expenses. And I was just floored by it. And it kind of brings me to what Rod may be alluding to, something that I did recently. Our neighbors, who are like family, the wife, she's had MS for the better part of her adult life and is wheelchair bound. And I kind of came up with the idea of, getting the ball rolling for a 1 week kind of auction type thing. And long and the short, we were able to raise $1,800 in 1 week for MS. And then I also had a really nice autographed triple relic Baker card that I donated to a young kid who wouldn't necessarily see a nice card like that. But as much as I love the collecting, philanthropic type things are things that I've always kind of drawn to. And to me, it's just, raising money. And I never would care about, I've done a lot of things. I prefer to do things kind of under the radar. And I think that's kind of, where the best things are led. But, Rod was, with his reach on Twitter, he was able to retweet and do kind of a shout out about this. And my buddies at Buck City Breaks and some other people that I know, there was actually 25,000 people impressions of my original tweet. And, it was just kind of, I try to always treat people how I want to be treated and literally go above and beyond. And it's, it's a little heartwarming for people to, maybe see even a little glimpse of that. And, it was one of the most tremendous weeks as far as just seeing the outpouring of people, and, give $1 or not give $1, but just, just supporting it and saying, "Oh, way to go, Joe," retweeting. It was pretty cool. So that's kind of up to my present day situation as far as collecting.
Yeah, definitely. So I got my start a little bit before that, but I think the first set I really worked on was the 81 top set. And, I just bought a bunch of packs and stuff. And it's kind of funny. I went through that set just like a year or two ago, and I was still missing so many cards that I just bought the set. Because it was like, it really wasn't that much to buy the whole set. It was, I don't even remember. It was under $50, let's say. Yeah. So I bought the set. And, in that first set that you work on, it's just meaningful to you, whether it's a cool set or not. It just takes you back to the beginning of collecting, whether it's a crappy looking set or one of the coolest sets that's ever been put out. It really doesn't matter. It's just, there's just something special about there. There was something special about breaking those packs open as, early on. And not that there's not now, but I think the longer you do it, the more you know about cards, and maybe you don't appreciate every card as much. Whereas when you're first starting, you're looking at every card, at every player, and you're like, wow, I got this guy, maybe this guy will be good someday. And now it's like you're looking for certain stuff, and it's just really cool to think back to the days that when I first started. And I collected a lot of the stuff in the 80s too, and a lot of it's crap, at this point. But still some of the stuff I like though. So
right,
definitely. Yeah. But the hobby's really taken off. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see. A lot of people are into it. I think it's different now. A lot of people, I think people are interested in the hobby and in breaking, but I think a lot of people are investing in it and stuff, and prices are going up. I don't know if there's many people building sets and doing stuff just for the joy of collecting.
Right.
I think people collect, but they collect kind of in different ways now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think what's going to be very, very interesting, the fact that Fanatics bought a big portion of the hobby. I think it's most of the Panini brands, and I'm not sure if it's the Tops, to be completely frank, and it's going to be a couple years down the road, but it's going to be pretty interesting with their scope and prowess, how they're going to change that. And it's very there's been some black eyes on the hobby recently when people are literally going in and fighting for these basketball cards or baseball cards or football cards that are you could find a Zion or a Ja or a Tani or whatever, and they're literally fighting over it. And Walmart and Target pretty much had to say, our employees don't need this abuse, and they were literally getting abused by some it's usually that 1% that kind of ruins it for the rest of us, or less than that. But the people that you want kids to be into games and into that stuff. And the fact that games are on late, totally different scenario. And, these cards are not as accessible, now they're coming back to it a little bit. But it's, that's who you want the kids to be excited about sports, and just kind of that, that awe of, oh my gosh, I just got, Jose Ramirez or, Shane Bieber. And you're starting to see it a little bit. I think it's coming back in a better direction, but that money or that greed can, change things in not the best way, but hopefully that was just a little blip.
It can. Yeah. I hope so.
So let me tell you a little story real quick, Joe.
Okay.
Sure.
And this is gonna sound cliche, but when Rod and I were young kids, our parents owned an ice cream stand. It was on Northfield Road. It was called Bedford Dairy Isle.
Okay.
And occasionally, my dad would bring home a pack or two of cards that they sold at the ice cream stand. Baseball, football. I mostly liked football cards because I was kind of into playing football at that point. And I still remember, having Jim Brown cards and Joe Namath cards, and all those guys from, the mid to late 60s. You know what I did with them? I put them in my spokes of my bike with a clothespin, and rode down the road with the cards going click, 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 right? Honest to God, I probably did that with cards that would be worth thousands of dollars today. And then when we moved after my 5th grade year of elementary school, we moved down to Columbus. I gave a whole bag full of those cards to the neighbor kid. Never saw him again. But you know what? I have right now a couple boxes of those junky 80s cards down in my basement. You know what I think I'm going to do next summer? I'm going to get them out, and I'm going to show my grandson how to bend them around the spokes of his bike, because that's about all they're worth. And I think that will connect with him, and he'll have as much fun as I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of what it's all about, right?
Yeah, it is. My nephew, they're in Columbus. He's soon to be 12, hard to believe. And he kind of got into it a little bit. And I've, actually this Christmas, the whole family, young girls, young boys, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, got them stuff. And, my sister-in-law was a really very, very good basketball player in Ohio, and, still has, one of the sweetest jump shots you'll ever see. And her brother took all of her dream team cards. And I just, I always kind of listened for gift ideas, and, I was able to, something that I had for a while. It was like Michael Jordan locker cards. It looks like literally like a locker, and there's like 2 of 6 cards, and it was the 1992 hoops, and it was all the dream team year, and I gave her that unopened. And, you would have thought that I, gave her, pure gold, because it was something that she'd always talked about. Like, my silly brothers took it and they'll never admit it. And I'm like, well, I brought them home for you. And, that's, that type of thing, just the giving of it. It was a real, just a small part of Christmas, but it was something that she, you could just tell the smile on her face. She went back to her childhood. She just had that, schoolgirl type look on her face, and it was kind of cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, guys, let's get back to the Steelers game. Do you guys have any final thoughts on that, or are you ready to just kind of throw some score predictions out?
I'll follow
Let's
your
get
guys'
to predictions.
lead. Yeah.
Let's get to the predictions.
Okay, I'm going to follow Jeff's advice, and I'm going to go first this week.
All right.
I think that the Browns defense is going to keep playing well, and I think the Browns offense is going to find a way to get some points on the board. This might be one of those games where we get a defensive touchdown potentially. But I've got the Browns winning 24-13 in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So Joe, you're the guest. We'll let you go second.
All right. As long as I'm not going to jinx and go in the wrong order or whatnot, I'll hopefully I'll bring good news here. I definitely have full confidence in them winning. Based on where the Steelers are at, and obviously the Browns are, they tease us just enough to be in the games, but they really can't get over that finish line. But I feel like with having Kareem Hunt come back, Malik McDowell, Jedrick Wills, all the way down the line, you can look at Rodney Harrison. I think they're getting players back at the right time. Jadeveon Clowney obviously will be very important, and hopefully Miles is a little healthier, but I don't know that groin's going to really heal quickly. But I think that they're going to have the pieces in place. And I'm thinking 31-14 Browns. I think they're gonna make enough noise in the defense to do things. I think I think the offensive line can do very good. I mean, obviously T.J. Watt's a beast. Cam Hayward's a beast, but there's a lot of deficiencies on that team, and obviously
this guy's been nicked up too.
And obviously, I don't care for Tomlin, but they find ways to be in games, whether it was, they win games that they shouldn't, or, I don't know if it was the Chargers game a couple weeks ago when they were so far out of it and they came back in. I mean, that was part of them taking their foot off the gas, but they somehow just, Ben, when he retires, I'll be fine with it. But he's obviously on his last legs, but he's got that knack. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, whether we like it or not. He can find a way to do it, and hopefully they just don't give him that opportunity. But I've got a lot of confidence in him.
Man, it'd be great to see the Browns score 31.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the market garden talking. I don't know.
Oh, it'd be wonderful. I hope it happens. That's only 7 more than what I have. So hey.
Right. Okay. I'm going to take you back to week 8. The Browns lost a squeaker 15-10 to the Steelers. I think they're going to flip that score this week. They're going to win 15-10. And I'm going to make the prediction that I made that week that the Browns are going to have a pick six of Big Ben, and then we're going to miss the extra point. But I feel pretty good about us scoring 15, and I feel even better about our defense holding Ben to 10. So I'm going to go with a low-scoring game this week, and sorry, Jeremy, it's an under.
So you've got. Let me just get this straight, Jeff. Do you have the offense scoring a touchdown, or are you thinking that we're going to get 3 field goals, or touchdown, field goal with 2 missed extra points?
Yeah, I think we're going to miss 2 extra points. I don't think we're going to get. I think asking us to get 1 field goal is going to be a lot. So yeah, we're gonna probably, the defense is going to score. We're going to miss an extra point. The offense is going to score. We're going to miss an extra point, and we're going to kick a field goal somewhere in there because we're going to be on the 5-yard line and not be able to get a first down.
God, I feel horrible just listening to that.
But it's a win.
It's a win, but it's going to be. Well, you know what? That sounds like the last 4 games the Browns have played. You know, we're down to the wire. Heart just pounding in my chest.
Yep.
I really shouldn't expect anything different.
Yeah, that's definitely a true statement. That Bengals game a couple of weeks ago or earlier in the season. I mean, that's not the norm for us Browns fans. Easy games are very much against the equation in most scenarios.
Yeah. I think we've had 4 in a row, 3 or 4 in a row that have gone down to pretty much the last play.
Mm-hmm.
2 points, 2 points, 2 points.
Yeah. So, you know,
and that Ravens game was close too. It ended up being 16-10, but that was last minute.
It was close. Yeah, they had a shot in that one too. So. Yeah. All right. Well, the good news is we all have them winning. Let's hope that happens, and the score really doesn't matter.
I'll take a 1 point win I could care less. A W is a W. Ugly or beautiful is fine with me.
That's right.
Yep.
So
we want that Cincinnati game to mean something.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's hope KC comes through and the Browns can take care of business in Pittsburgh, and we'll see what happens in Week 18. So.
Yep.
All right, guys, it's time for some closing remarks or thoughts. Joe, you're the guest. We'll let you go first and closing things out for us.
Sure. Well, I just want to thank Rod and Jeff for having me. I mean, it was a nice surprise that I got the Twitter DM a couple days ago and with the invite, and you know, I was very humbled to think that, you know, my opinion mattered, and you know, hopefully I showed all right in my inaugural podcast of all time, and you know, and I had a blast with you guys. I mean, you know, even this is the first time that we've actually talked. You know, I felt, you know, pretty solid rapport, and you know, I felt like it was pretty natural, and hopefully it came off that way. And you know, thank you very much.
Absolutely, Joe. I thought you did a great job. So everybody follow Joe at JoeyDoves77. And Jeff, closing thoughts?
Last look at Ben Roethlisberger Monday, as far as playing the Browns. As far as everybody knows, he's retiring. And the best thing I can say is good riddance.
Yeah, I have to agree. Let's send him away with a loss. That's about all I can say. So, all right. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.